My name is Hazel, and I'm 34 years old. I've been married to James for 8 years, and we have a 6-year-old son, Mark. I met James when I was 26. At that time, I was working at a small coffee shop, trying to figure out my life after a difficult breakup. One rainy afternoon, he walked in, a charming smile and a genuine kindness that immediately caught my attention. We struck up a conversation, and from that moment on, we couldn't stay away from each other. James was different from anyone I'd ever dated. He had a quiet strength about him, a sense of calm that made me feel safe. He was patient, thoughtful, and treated me with such care. We quickly became inseparable. He had been through his own heartaches, especially with his past relationship. James told me about her, how they had been together for 5 years before parting ways. She was his first love, and while he always spoke of her with respect, I could tell it wasn't just a casual breakup for him. It was something that shaped him. We built our lives together, James and I, and even though there were moments of tension, especially around our differences, I believed in us. We married 2 years later, and soon after we had Mark. Our family felt complete, but there were always small things that made me wonder, was he truly over her? James's past was something he rarely discussed, but over time, I learned more about it. His ex-girlfriend was someone he had loved deeply, someone he'd thought would be his forever. They had been together since high school, and even though they eventually broke up, I could see she had a lasting impact on him. There were small clues that pointed to the fact that he wasn't completely over her. The way he would suddenly become quiet whenever her name came up, or how he sometimes seemed lost in thought, staring at an old photo of them together that he kept tucked away in a box. I told myself it was just nostalgia, nothing more, but then I found out he still had a keepsake from her, an old bracelet she had given him before they parted ways. He kept it hidden in his drawer, and when I accidentally stumbled upon it, I was shocked. At first, James brushed it off, saying it was just a memory of the past, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more to it. It was as if a part of him was still holding on to her, even if he didn't fully realize it. I started to notice other things, like how he would sometimes compare me to her, in small, subtle ways, always claiming it was harmless. But each comparison stung. One evening, James and I decided to take Mark to the city for a family outing. The streets were lit up with holiday lights, and there was a sense of joy in the air. But as we walked through the crowd, I noticed something that made my heart drop. James had stopped in his tracks, his eyes fixed on a woman in the distance. She was with another man, and at first I didn't recognize her, but then it hit me. She was his ex, the woman from his past, the one he never really spoke about. James didn't notice that I had seen her at first. He walked away from me and Mark, standing a few feet away, watching them. It was like he was frozen in time. I stood there, confused and hurt. I tried to keep calm, but my mind raced. Why was he staring at her like that? Why wasn't he with us? It didn't make sense. When I finally approached him, he acted as though nothing had happened. "I didn't see her," he said quickly. "It's nothing." But I wasn't convinced. Later that night, I brought it up. "James, why were you looking at her like that?" I asked, my voice shaky. He grew defensive. "You're imagining things, Hazel. You always think there's something more to it. There isn't." I wanted to believe him, but the doubts continued to creep in. There were other signs. How he had sometimes asked about her life, casually inquiring about her through mutual friends. The more I tried to brush it off, the more it seemed like something I couldn't ignore. And the more I tried to talk about it, the more he shut down. Each conversation ended with the same response: "You're overthinking it." But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. The tension between us had been building for weeks. I could feel it in the way James spoke to me, the distance in his touch. We were no longer the couple that once shared everything. Now, It felt like we were strangers coexisting in the same space. One night, as I was sitting alone in our living room, I started to think about everything. The signs, the subtle clues, the way James never truly let go of his past. It all hit me at once. Maybe he still loved her. Maybe I wasn't enough. I could no longer ignore the possibility that his heart was still tied to his ex-girlfriend, despite everything we had built together. The thought gnawed at me, keeping me up late into the night. I had to know. I couldn't live in this uncertainty anymore, so I confronted him. "James, I need to ask you something," I said, my voice trembling. "Do you still love her? Do you still think about her? 'Cause it feels like she's still here, in everything you do." He went silent for a moment, his eyes wide with shock. I could see the conflict in his face. He didn't want to admit it, but I could tell he was struggling with his emotions. Finally, he spoke, but his words only made things worse. "Hazel, you're overreacting. I've told you before, she's in the past. I love you. You're my family." But his voice lacked conviction. I saw the hesitation in his eyes, the way he avoided my gaze. It was like he was trying to convince both me and himself that I was enough. But I wasn't so sure anymore. I didn't feel loved the way I needed to, and that feeling of doubt only grew stronger with every attempt to fix things. In that moment, I realized that no matter how much he denied it, something was broken between us. I didn't know if it was fixable. I spent days thinking, weighing my options, trying to figure out if I could ever feel the same way about James again. But the truth was clear. I could no longer ignore the hurt in my heart. I couldn't live in the shadow of his past, constantly wondering if he would ever choose me over her. The doubt, the uncertainty, the fear of never being enough, it was all too much. So I made a decision. I had to leave. For my own peace of mind, for my self-worth, I knew I couldn't stay in a relationship where I always felt second to someone from his past. I deserved more than that. I deserved to be loved completely, without hesitation, without comparisons. James was shocked when I told him. He didn't understand at first, but deep down, I knew this was the only choice. I needed to be with someone who could give me the love and attention I deserved, someone who was truly present. It wasn't easy, but I walked away knowing that this was the best decision for me. In the end, I learned that self-respect and personal happiness come before anything. Sometimes, no matter how much you love someone, you have to prioritize your own emotional well-being. It's not worth staying in a relationship where you constantly feel unimportant. If you found this story meaningful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support means the world.